Okay. Juan, you want me to wait for a second? Okay. I appreciate everybody being here. Like Curtis said, it's my 20th year here. Really looking forward to this season, as we always are, but certainly when we return the number of players that we returned from last year with 38 wins, 7 returning starters position player-wise, and the vast majority of our pitching staff returns. So again, 9 seniors, 2 redshirt juniors, so that gives you a lot of experience. And the bulk of those guys have been everyday players or consistent performers on the mound for 2 and 3 years now. Again, that's a real positive for us, I think. But having said that, we also are going to count on some young guys. I'm really excited about this. It was not a huge recruiting class for us, and under Coach Jay Gotro in his first year as recruiting coordinator. But it was a talented group. The reason it was obviously not as big a class is because we had so many upperclassmen. But next year's class is going to be again a huge class, and we're well on our way in that one. I think we signed 12, 14 guys in the fall already, so depending on the Major League Draft. But we are going to count on some freshmen, both on the mound and position player-wise, going into this season. Looking at some of our returners, obviously Garrett Canizera coming back at third base, I think is what really one of the more talented third basemen in the country, if not the. Brennan Milton had a really good year offensively and defensively for us last year at shortstop. Bowen Woodson played a ton at second base last year, a really fine defensive player. And Sean Paquet at first base had a really good year for us offensively and defensively in his first year as a junior college transfer for us. Blake Crohan would be the incumbent behind the plate. He's caught quite a bit for us and put up really good offensive numbers, but he can also play in the outfield and will do so quite a bit, along with Brandon Boudreaux, preseason all-conference player, as is Canizera, who was all-conference for us last year, returns in the outfield. Andrew Garner had an outstanding summer and has had a really good fall in preseason, comes back in his junior year. Briggs Barrios has had a tremendous fall. It's for the first time, knock on wood, that he's been healthy since he's been here, and it's reflected in his play both in the fall and in the preseason. From a pitching standpoint, obviously we do return all of our staff with the exception of DJ Ponder, who had a great senior year for us last year with 12 saves and 2 wins. But we return Kyle McKenzie, who's had a real good preseason. So far, we return David Napoli, a preseason all-conference player, left-handed pitcher. Andrew Reeves, who pitched on the weekends for us the second half of the season. Alex Bayo, 9 wins for us last year. Again, Andrew Garner, who had 21 appearances on the mound, is back and will be in that kind of role for us. And then Tyler Mapes had an outstanding fall in preseason, a senior. Randy LeBlanc is back again. And then 2 pitchers that are not 100% healthy at opening day, but should be. One may be for opening day, the other one a little bit later, but both of those guys we expect to contribute quite a bit once they are healthy is Alex Massey, sophomore, who was very good for us last year in a weekend rotation role, and he's getting close to being healthy. And then Alex Vicundis, who has been a setup and close guy for us, who's a junior, and he should be ready to go, if not opening day, pretty soon after that. From an underclassman standpoint, we're really excited about 3 position players that I think will play a lot for us. Timothy Yandel out of Atlanta is a tremendous prospect in my mind. He's throwback to some of those guys that we've had who had, I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but the kind of players that we had in the past who that stood out. And he can play the infield, outfield, third, second, first, anywhere in the outfield, can catch if he has to, but he's really swung the bat well. We expect him to be a guy in our lineup. Richard Carthon is a football player also, would be the fastest player that we've had in our program in quite some time. He is playing catch-up right now because obviously he missed the fall, but Coach Johnson is going to let him concentrate on baseball this spring. We expect him to play a lot in the outfield, maybe hitting a leadoff position, maybe not opening day, but certainly he is at-bats now as he's getting. We want to try to get him 50 to 60 at-bats before the season open. And the more at-bats he gets, the better you're seeing him come around. He's also a very good bunter, and again, he can really, really run. And the best throw catcher we've probably had in about 15 years is Cameron Burns, out of the same high school in Houston, Bel Air, that produced Jeremy Schaefer and Brian. Who else? What other catcher, Coach Suter? Bormaster, I'm sorry. And so, obviously, one of the best high school programs in the country. Cameron is really starting to come on with the bat, and but he is really talented behind the plate and can really throw. And so, you're going to see a lot of those three freshmen there, along with some freshman arms that I think are going to contribute right off the bat too. Obviously, everybody's aware of Emerson Gibbs, who had the great career at Jesuit. We've been very careful with Emerson because obviously we want to minimize his pitch count as much as we can, but he has been very impressive. He will have a role at some point in time. What it would be, I couldn't define that yet. As will Daniel Rankin, is a right-hander out of Texas who features a fastball, in the 90s with a really good breaking ball, and I think he's going to have a prominent role in his career here. And then Ian Jabot has got a chance to be in the closer role for us. I'm not going to make that decision yet, but Ian's a guy that features three good pitches and a fastball in the low to mid-90s with a good changeup and has mound presence. And so I really believe in the back end of the bullpen. I really believe that you have to have somebody who can get an out at the plate. You got to have a strike thrower, and you got to have somebody that has that mound presence. And I think he possesses that. But he is a freshman. He's never played a college baseball game. Two transfers that we're really excited about. One is Brady Wilson, left-handed pitcher, who was 24-2, I believe, in his 2 years at LSU Eunice. He doesn't throw that hard, but he really is competitive. And obviously, you don't win that many games unless you have a lot of ability to be a strike thrower and also make pitches, and we see him in a prominent role. And then the last guy I would say there would be Tony Rosati, who was a high draft pick out of high school, went to TCU, and then had double knee surgery, did not play basically last year. It was in a junior college, got healthy. We'd seen him out of high school, and he got better and better this fall. And again, a fastball in the low to mid-90s with a real good slider, and so I think he's going to have if everything goes as we see right now, he'll have a major prominent role for us also. So it gives us some pitching depth, some experience, some new faces also that adds our depth as far as position players are concerned. And I think if you look last year, we led the conference in hitting. The bulk of that returns. I know we lost two really fine hitters in Nick Schneeberger and Jeremy Schaefer, but I do think we've added some good offensive weapons, and we returned 7 of those other guys. So we were 19th in the country in hitting last year. I mean, I hear that sometimes we didn't, but nobody. Those days of the old bats and those kind of offensive outputs those days are over. But you look at how the game is played now. I'm real excited about the fact that we do return a club that was in the top 20 in the nation in hitting, and we led the conference in team defense last year. We were 11th in the country in that. When you return your entire infield and 2 outfielders, you feel like that should be a constant for you also. We also led our conference in on-base percentage and slugging percentage, and those things speak well to scoring runs. So, and then at the back end of that, we had the lowest ERA last year in 32 years at Tulane. We were in the threes. What was our ERA? 3.38, which again, lowest in 32 years, certainly the lowest in my tenure here, and we've had some great arms. So, what Coach Suter did with our pitching staff last year, and with the exception of one, the bulk of that returns with a little more in depth. So, from a scheduling standpoint, and again, I don't want to talk too much about last year. Obviously, we were disappointed, but the RPI became more of an in play than with the committee last year, and the complexion of the committee, the way it was made up, RPI was what they looked at more than anything else. And so you're at the mercy of that and who you play. Our league was ranked as one of the top 5 leagues in the country, and it's hard not to play a good schedule in the middle of the week in the state of Louisiana. But again, you cannot control that, some things. But some things you can control. And so what we're doing, because the RPI is the way they look at the RPI road wins, we are going on the road more than we have in a long, long time. There's when you're in the South and you have a fan base that we have, there's a thrust there because you need to generate revenue, and certainly by playing at home, you're able to do that. You don't cost you by playing at home. When you go on the road, it's costly, and you don't have those people sitting in your stands, paying to park at your place and eating your concessions, etc. But the RPI dictates that we go on the road more, so we're going to. We're opening the tournament in Texas with 3 teams that are projected to be at the top of their leagues. That should help us from an RPI standpoint. We're going to Lafayette for the first time in a decade. We're going to Nichols. We're going to Monroe. Obviously, we're going up the river, and we're going back to Southeastern, so again, we're going to be on the road more than we have been in the past, and it's strictly because of the RPI. Our season tickets have been really, really good. So I'm thankful that our fan base has been able to support the fact that they know what we have to do to be able to give ourselves the best opportunity when it comes selection time. And with that, I think I'll answer any. And I mentioned 2 members of our staff, of course, along with Brian Meyer, our Director of Operations. And then in his first year with us, I'm really excited. A former player and a first-round pick here is Shooter Hunt. And Shooter will be assisting with the pitchers as he has been, and coaching the outfielders. And we're excited about him being in our program. And I think he's got a really, really bright future as a coach. All right, I'll take any questions. Yeah, I mean, Jabot has really stood out, but obviously Andrew Reeves has the ability to do that and the makeup to do that. Alex Facundus also, and has been in that role quite a bit, or a setup role, but he's not 100% healthy yet, so that's held him back. And then, you never know how it's going to evolve, because DJ Ponder was not our closer at this time last year. He evolved into that role. So you never know. You may see someone like a Tyler Mapes. You can never really predict 100% how that's going to go. I think Brady Wilson's going to give us a lot of help, both as a starter and a reliever. So there's so many options there. But you're right. We want to have that defined a little bit more by the end of this weekend, because obviously this is our last weekend to do that.
As far as starting rotation at this point, it seems like you have a lot of options.
We do.
Nobody could really figure out where to sit.
If we're going to be playing 5 games a week more often than we have, simply because we do have some more pitching depth, and because we've taken that weekend off last year, the weekend that we played last year that I think really, really hurt our RPI, we're taking that weekend off this year. And if we had 5 guys in that rotation right now, the people that have really stood out have been Kyle McKenzie, Tony Rosati, David Napoli, Alex Bayo, and Tyler Mapes. Those guys have sort of stood out a little bit, and Brady Wilson had a really good fall for us also. He was just a little bit behind. He tripped while he was running, and he had a little strain in his elbow, which is well now, but we had to be a little bit more cautious with him. So he hadn't had quite as much mound time, but we expect him to give us a lot of help too.
But do you have when do you need to put that sentence together? Friday,
well, we're gonna have that squared away in our mind by the end of this weekend. And the other thing is, you look at it a little bit different for the first weekend, because it's not one team for 3 games. We know that we're going to catch probably the three really, really good arms. We haven't been told, but we know that I think Missouri State's looks like a first-round kind of guy. And is that correct? Or Sam Houston? 2 preseason All-Americans, yeah. So we may look at matchup in that first weekend, cushion, and also look left, right, that sort of thing. We're just now getting the scouting report in. So, but I would be very surprised if you didn't see McKenzie, probably Rosati, and then the other one, Bayo, Napoli, because we come back on Tuesday with Southeastern and then Notre Dame the next weekend.
Hey, Coach, losing a couple of power hitters like you mentioned from last season, why are you confident in your returners to be able to pick up the slack and drive them?
Well, I mean, again, power numbers are not something that probably you're going to see a ton of from a lot of clubs, especially the way it's played now. But we do return 7 starters. That's better than returning 2 starters. And a lot of those guys put up really good offensive numbers. But as I said earlier, I also think that we have 3 freshmen that I think are going to be able to put up numbers. They're very talented guys, and at least and maybe in a different way. I mean, if he's he may not hit with power, a lot of power, although he's starting to flash that. But a guy like Richard Carthon, if he's on first, he's got a chance to be on third pretty quick. And so there's different ways you go about that. But I feel good about it. If we stay healthy, I think this is a club that can put up some offensive numbers. But again, we're going to run into great arms. And if you look at scores nationwide, that's probably the one thing that I hear more than anything else. When are we going to hit? Again, we were in the top 20 in the nation, led our league, and so I think so much in college baseball is a reflection on what happened in the past versus what's going on now, and this is reality. Yeah, that's why you play. Well, I mean, he's got a chance to do well in a leadoff role because he can steal bases. He's a very good base runner. And if we open the season today, he would be in that role. But also I think that eventually if he, again, leadoff hitter on base percentage, you really look at that, getting on base. If Richard Carthon continues to come on, he's a guy that can be in that role also. Then, Brandon Boudreaux is hitting that role. He's hitting the 2-hole. He's hitting the leadoff spot a lot. But he's swinging it so well right now, you project him in the 3-hole. Right. Yeah. That's a good question, Juan, and I wish I could answer. Yeah, he is going to benefit from the fact that we have so much pitching depth. There would be years that I'm sure that Emerson right now would have a little bit more weight on his shoulders than we're putting on him right now. But having said that, again, we didn't throw him in the fall until the latter part of the fall. We really wanted to rehab him as much as we could, to protect him as much as we could, and we've been pretty cautious with him in the preseason also because we can be and because we had to be. And so I think he's a guy. I mean, Emerson can command the strike zone as well as anybody. His mechanics. When you look at pitchers' mechanics, the three things that you really look at are pace, rhythm, and balance. And the best guys at the highest level have high levels of consistent pace, their balance point's good, and their rhythm, whatever is unique to them, is very consistent, allows them to make pitches. Emerson can do that as well as anybody that you'll see, and that's why he's able to hit his spots. And no, he does not knock the bat out of people's hand. He's not going to throw 90 miles an hour. But that doesn't matter. You throw the gun away with him, and you look at how he's able to hit his spots and get quick outs for you. And I think he'll be able to have a role for us doing that.